Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Council meeting for March 12th, 2024. Call the meeting to order. A couple of reminders for everyone here at the top. Please take a moment to silence your phones and devices if you haven't done so already. This meeting and its participants are being recorded. This evening, there will be several opportunities for public comment. If you wish to make comment, please do so at the podium there and speak into the microphone so that you can be heard both in this room and on the live stream. Comments must begin with your name and block of residence for our meeting minutes and should be addressed toward council. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and should address issues that have or may come before council as legislation. I'm gonna get my words correct tonight. To keep time, you will see this light here. This is a light. Turn green when the speaker begins. It will turn yellow when there is 1 minute remaining, and it will turn red when 3 minutes has been exhausted. Thank you in advance, everyone, for allowing equal time. And now, for all those who are willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Med.
Here.
Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
And President Beke.
Here. Our next item is the approval of the minutes for the February 27th, 2024 meeting of council.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any council comments on the minutes? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Beke.
Aye. Our next item on the agenda is proclamations, honors, and awards, and resolutions of recognition, of which I believe we have one this evening. Resolution number 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster designating March 2024 as Women's History Month in the City of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you, councilors. It's my honor once again to introduce a resolution recognizing Women's History Month here in the city of Lancaster. It has occurred to me that some of women's history in Lancaster happened right here in City Hall, including the swearing in of our first and second women to be mayor, Janice Stork and Deneen Sirachi, respectively, and the first woman to be council president, the Honorable Louise Williams. And the many women who have sat here at this dais, sometimes as the only woman. And of course, the countless other women who have been active in city government as members of boards and commissions, participants in public meetings as concerned residents, and working in public service to the city. I'd like to give my sincerest appreciation to the women of the city of Lancaster who continue to make history in ways big and small. This resolution is one way that we can honor them. Members of council, thank you for considering this resolution. I'll take any other council comments on the resolution. Hearing none, I'll take any comments from the public. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Beke.
Aye. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda this evening is our first public comment period. It's reserved for residents who have contacted the city clerk in advance to request the opportunity to address council. Again, as a reminder, those comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and please begin with your name and your block of residence for our meeting record. Mr. Harris, do we have advanced public comments this evening?
We do, Madam President. First is Sean Golitz.
Thank you. Mr. Golitz, good evening.
Council members, I am Sean Golitz with the 200 block of Howard Avenue.
If you could just make sure that that microphone is on, look for the green light. You got it.
Mic check.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Council members, again, I am Sean Golitz from the 200 block of Howard Avenue. I appreciate the chance to share my thoughts with you tonight. When I discovered that the so-called Trust Act ordinance had been passed, I felt compelled to speak up. It is disheartening to learn that our city has chosen to outsource its policies to radical Marxist organizations like Welcoming America and CASA. I find it unsettling that these groups have had a hand in shaping our legislation. There was no effort to get city input on this bill. This ordinance was only first read February 13th, then passed on February 27th. What was the rush to get this signed, especially in the current political climate? Wouldn't you agree that it is highly irresponsible to not seek input or consider the consequences of creating an incentive for foreign nationals to bring increased crime, drug use, homelessness, and human trafficking to the city? Before we go too much further, I want to make some distinctions. First of all, no human is illegal. However, some human behavior is criminal. I also love immigrants and immigration. My great-great-grandfather immigrated to Lancaster City in the 1880s and owned the historic Mechanics Hotel just a few blocks away. The ordinance states, and I quote, "The city encourages crime reporting and cooperation in the investigation of criminal activity," unquote. Might I remind the council that illegal entry into the United States is indeed criminal activity? Like, seriously, are you really going to arrest a cartel fentanyl dealer, keep it a secret from federal law enforcement without any coordination? How is that going to keep us or anyone else here safe? Do you know why illegal entry into the United States is indeed an evil, immoral crime? It is the crime of theft. And the whole purpose of a democratic government is for the general welfare of its citizens. Taxes are paid by the citizens for the benefit of each other. When the doors are open to foreigners, without limitation, measure, or regulation, it is no longer a democratic government. Unvetted foreigners take from the treasury in the form of services, welfare, and state programs paid by its citizens. It is theft. Uncounted foreign nationals have no right to ignore the laws of the nation and to take illegally from the pockets of Americans. And at no point does any of the language in the ordinance try to defend why illegal entry isn't or even shouldn't be a crime. It only directs the police and city officials to shield criminals and ignore criminal activity. Shame on you. This is unacceptable. Repeal the Trust Act immediately. Look at the other cities that have made the same decision, and can you not ignore the many adverse effects this had on the community? What makes you think Lancaster is immune from the same damages? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris, is there additional advance comment?
Yes, next is Jeremy Countess.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Countess.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Countess. I live in the 100 block of South Duke Street in the city's Old Town community. I am an officer of NEWT, also known as Neighborhoods of Old Town Association. I spoke briefly at your last council meeting in opposition to the destruction of the brick sidewalks in our historic neighborhood, the creation of a shared pedestrian bike path, and the creation of a greenway buffer between the shared path and the traveled lanes. My comments this evening relate primarily to the written response dated March 6, 2024 from Stephen Campbell as Director of Public Works. Mr. Campbell's letter states that staff received 37 survey responses as a result of the public open house on January 31st, which ranked the project in the neutral to positive range in, quote, stark contrast to the negative feedback on Engage Lancaster, close quote. Since the open house related to 4 separate projects, how many survey responses related to the Church Street project? Is Mr. Campbell equating neutral responses with positive responses? Is Mr. Campbell ignoring the 39 residents of Old Town who voiced their objections to the Church Street project in the February 6th letter addressed to Cindy McCormick? I would note that those 39 residents include 100% of the residents on the affected block on Church Street. Is Mr. Campbell ignoring the many additional objections to the destruction of our brick sidewalks or creation of the shared path that appear on Engage Lancaster? Is Mr. Campbell ignoring the very strong objections to the proposed shared pedestrian bike path by various representatives of the biking community that appear on Engage Lancaster? By my count, the 39 signatories to our February 6th letter plus the objections on Engage Lancaster far exceed any positive survey responses to this Church Street project. Is Mr. Campbell ignoring the fact that the shared pedestrian bike path will never receive street sweeping or snow plowing by the city? Since NEWT volunteers clean our sidewalks of debris on a weekly basis, and residents are required to clear snow from city sidewalks within 24 hours, will they now be expected to maintain and clear snow from the proposed 12-foot wide path and the greenway buffer? Finally, I would invite all council members and city planners to review the posting on Engage Lancaster late yesterday afternoon by David Lebetter entitled, "Listen to the Neighborhood." We recognize the city has probably spent considerable sums in developing its proposal to date. However, it is not too late to change course and develop final plans that address our objections. Perhaps the city planner should have been more carefully considered Susie Hoover's letter of objections and proposals to the cities last May in response to the city's initial presentation to residents. I don't believe Ms. Hoover ever got a response to that letter. Thank you for your time and the city's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Countess. Mr. Harris, we have further advance comment.
We do. Next is Jim Morrissey.
Thank you. Mr. Morrissey, good evening.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Harris, for putting me on the agenda, and thanks for allowing me this time. The subject, by the way, my name is, according to a letter I received from the city, is community stakeholder. Other people know me as Jim Morrissey. I live on Washington Street in what is called Old Town as well. My neighbors and friends do call me Jim Morrissey, although the city must recognize me most as community shareholders. That's the way the letter is addressed to me, which I received, well, it's dated March 6th, as a reply to my notes on February 12th, which I mentioned 2 weeks ago tonight, which for the most part have gone unanswered, except that I do appreciate the reply the President of the Council did give me, which I only saw today. Thank you. And it does answer some of my concerns, but many of the concerns in my letter have nothing to do with the 31 March deadline. There are things in there that could be answered at any time. I don't think any one person can answer all of my concerns. However, I look at that letter, that form letter, which essentially is a canned spiel. I also like to address it as a brush off. I think it's another brush off that the citizens around here are getting. By way of email, I presented many facts and data that were not emotion or opinion based. Much of what I had in the letter was regardless of the 31 deadline. I'm insulted, quite frankly, and disappointed at a form letter that I now have learned have gone to many people named community shareholder in this community. I don't know how you get us all separated. I conclude by suggesting that if I'm not to be addressed by my name, then I would prefer to be addressed as Dear Registered Voter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. Mr. Harris, we have additional advance comment this evening.
We do. Next is Susie Hoover.
Thank you. Ms. Hoover, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Susie Hoover, and I live on the 200 block of East King Street, adjacent to Old Town. This is in regard to the plan changes to Church Street. I wanted to state, I sent a letter, you all received a letter that I wrote to Cindy McCormick, and also my graphics. I sent a letter to Cindy McCormick on May 8, 2023 in response to the first meeting held on March 28, 23 regarding this project. My letter carefully critiqued the proposed plan of Church Street from Queen to South Lime. I addressed all 4 questions from the first open house in detail. Bernie Harris forwarded this letter and the separate graphic to City Council members. I used a graphic of the city's recommendation and created an alternative plan using their graphics and measurements, exact measurements. My graphic separates the joint bike and pedestrian path to a 4-foot bike protected path, which is buffered from moving traffic by 2 feet. Cars continue to park at the curb, and the brick sidewalk could be increased to 5 feet. I am going to address this. Mr. Campbell's feedback provided no detailed information regarding each question on the survey. The data from the questionnaire would be better served by listing each question and individual responses. The negative responses on Engage Lancaster could be added as a separate study because the city asked the community to engage, and we did. 39 individuals supported an Old Town letter, which questions some recommendations using Excel. recommendations using Excel would provide an efficient way for the responses to be calculated. I use it all the time. I forwarded my letter and graphic to City Council because my thorough study sent to Public Works was never acknowledged. Thank you.
Ms. Hoover, thank you. Mr. Harris, are there additional advance comments this evening?
There are not, Madam President.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. There is one.
Okay. Yep,
Joyce Callis.
thank you. Yep. I thought that was the case. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joyce Counis. I live on the 100 block of South Duke Street. Specifically, this is all related, obviously, to the Church Street project. Back on January 31st at the open house, when I was so appalled at ripping up our brick sidewalks, and this has to do with that at the moment, I said to Cindy McCormick, how can you do that? You know, there's HARB. How can you just rip up brick sidewalks? And she basically told me that HARB doesn't cover the right-of-way, brick sidewalks, which I came back and confirmed. And she told me, in fact, that I could rip up my brick sidewalks in front of my house on South Duke Street and put concrete in if I liked, which was kind of a shock. Well, subsequent to that, and a lot of my neighbors are all saying, how can they do that with HARB? How can they rip up the brick sidewalks? And I'm telling HARB doesn't apply. Turns out what I didn't realize is you have something called the Streetscape Design Guidelines, which have the same weight, I believe, as the HARB guidelines. So the Streetscape Design Guidelines for the City of Lancaster, under paving, it says, paving brick has dominated Lancaster City's built landscape for centuries, utilizing construction of our city's high-style landmark buildings such as Central Market in our more vernacular building stock consisting of tobacco warehouses and townhouses, and in some of our cherished outdoor spaces such as Steinman Park, brick is the material most identified with Lancaster's rich and architectural heritage. Brick has also been used over the past centuries to pave our city's sidewalks. This is all still your guidelines. It's been used for centuries to pave our city's sidewalks. Its naturally warm terracotta coloration produces paved surfaces which are in harmony with the most adjacent structures. Furthermore, a standard brick's normal size lends to a human-scaled textural design element to expansive areas of paving. Flexibility to create a variety of pleasing paving patterns is yet another benefit of this material. Then the next paragraph says, whenever Lancaster's existing brick sidewalks remain in good condition, they should be preserved. Whenever brick sidewalks have fallen into disrepair due to poor subgrade conditions, every attempt should be made to lift and reset, goes on. They have to be preserved. The design, and I added design guidelines further state, whenever concrete sidewalks currently exist within something called Streetscape A, which are certain corridors in the city, and where future streetscape modifications are proposed, a 3 to 4 foot brick band must be installed adjacent to the curb as specified in these streetscape design guidelines. I bring this up because our daughter a year or so back had some serious plumbing issues and had to have her sidewalk ripped up, and the city made her put in this brick band. Wasn't there before, cost her more money. She's the only one on the block that has it, but she had to comply with this streetscape guidelines. The question I have is, why do you enforce it on residents, but when the township has agenda that they want to do, they ignore it, ripping up our big sidewalks.
Countess, I just want to let you know your 3 minutes is up.
Okay. Well, I'm sending this letter, I should have said, to Cindy McCormick, looking for an answer of how our project is exempt from these guidelines, which residents have to abide by. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harris, confirming that was the final advance comment, is that correct?
That was the final one, yes.
Thank you. We will now move to reports requested by council. I don't believe there is any this evening. Is that correct, Mr. Harris?
That is correct.
Great. Next is the reports of committees of council. These are the meetings held on March 4th, 2024. We will begin with Public Safety. Councilor Diaz.
The Safety Committee did not meet.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Public Works Committee, Councilor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee did meet. We had 2 items that will appear on our agenda later this evening. The resolution number 24-2024 supporting Building Safer Streets Act, and resolution number 27-2024 authorizing the project easement for the corner restaurant. And that concludes my committee report.
Thank you, Councilor Hirsch. Next is Economic Development. Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. The Economic Development Committee did meet in my absence. Thank you, Vice President Arroyo, for overseeing that meeting. And they did discuss Administrative Bill number 3, allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds for critical housing repairs, and Administrative Bill number 4, 2024, allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds for affordable housing projects. Those will both be on our legislative agenda for the first reading. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. Next is the Finance Committee. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee did meet during the last session. We discussed resolutions number 11, 12, 13, and 14, all of which appear later in the agenda this evening, and we'll plan to discuss more in detail later. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Community Planning Committee. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Community Planning did meet. We had 6 items on the agenda, which included 2 items from the Heritage Conservation District and resolutions 15, 16, 25, and 17, all of which will come up in a little while on our agenda.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. And finally, the Personnel Committee. Councilor Caliste.
Thank you, Madam President. The Personnel Committee did meet on March 4 and reviewed 3 proposed appointments to the Zoning Hearing Board. Resolutions making those appointments are on the agenda for action later in tonight's meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Councilor Caliste. We'll now move into our legislative agenda for this evening. The first items are the Heritage Conservation District. Mr. Harris.
Consider the following applications and recommendations from the Historical Commission for improvements to properties within the Heritage Conservation District. And the first one is Whispering Hope Enterprises LLC, owner of 237 and 239 North Mulberry Street, and they propose demolition of the rear wings of 2 adjoining residential duplex structures. Whispering Hope Enterprises LLC, owner of 327 329 North Mulberry Street, also proposes construction of a new 3-story rear addition on the east elevation of combined residential duplex structures.
Motion to approve.
And
Confirming, Councilor Craig, did you want to take those 2 together and the other 2 together?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion to approve for items A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. The Heritage Conservation met at their last meeting, and it was, this project was was recommended for approval. Mr. Young presented for us in a review, representing the owner of Whispering Hope Enterprises LLC. Properties in review are 327 and 329 North Mulberry Street, which are 2 adjacent condemned properties. The goal is to take these 2-unit buildings and create 6 of these 6 apartments would be micro apartments, 9 apartments in total. The micro apartments would be 400 square feet approximately, or a little less. Plans call for retaining the front structure of the buildings and demolition of the rear wing of each building. 3-story construction, new 3-story construction would replace the rear wing on the basically on the same footprint.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. And this was a presentation at our committee meeting on March 4th. Are there any council comments on the items? Comments from the public?
Yes.
Good evening. Please begin with your name and block of residence.
Good evening. Susie Gomez at 115 North Reservoir Street, Lancaster, PA. So my question is, Whispering Hope Enterprises LLC, are they in Lancaster?
I do believe they are. I don't know, do we have any of the applicants for this item? Yes, we do. Sir, if you'd like to answer that question, this is not typically a question and answer, but you're more than welcome to address it if you'd like.
Yeah, because it's typical for the
You have
taxpayers.
3 minutes, and I want to make sure you get your time if you need.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, are you, is your company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
They live in Lancaster County.
No, the Whispering
Ms.
Hope
Gomez, you
Enterprise.
need to address comments to council.
Whispering Hope Enterprise LLC, I've addressed it to you. You're the one who's actually responding to him, not me.
Yep, and so I've given him the opportunity to respond. He did say they're based in Lancaster County.
They're based in Lancaster County. And so obviously, they're not residents or taxpayers, or they're just taking over 327 and 329 North Mulberry Street. Is that what I'm listening to?
They're the owners of the property.
They're the owners, okay. So can you tell me specifically where they are located?
Ms. Gomez, I don't have that information in front of me, and again,
Well, you can ask the gentleman. You asked him the first time.
this is public comment, not a question and answer.
This is a resolution that's being passed, and the people in the city of Lancaster should be involved. So I'm coming in as a taxpayer asking a question.
Do you have any other questions? And perhaps I can give him a minute to address them when you're finished.
Can you answer the one I just asked?
I don't have that answered. Would you like to continue?
Would you like to ask him?
I'm giving you your time.
I don't think you are, ma'am, respectfully. I just asked a question that you haven't answered, nor
I
did he.
don't have that answer, and so I'd like you to have your time if you have any additional questions, and we can.
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. As the representative of the applicant, if you would like to address that, you're welcome to. You don't have to.
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from the public on these two items? Hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Mann?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
And President Bacon?
Aye. Thank you. The next item is Mr. Harris.
118 Prince LLC, owner of 116 118 North Prince Street, proposes demolition of rear building wings and a rear brick garage to allow new construction on the site. And 118 North Prince, owner of 116 118 North Prince Street, proposes construction of a new multi-story mixed-use residential building extending west to North Water Street. And those applications are recommended for approval by the Historical Commission.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second on the items. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Unless there's someone here to represent 118 North Prince Street, I don't have anything to add other than what's there.
Thank you. Any comments from council on the items? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris?
Mr. Mann?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
Aye.
President Bacon?
Aye. Next item on the agenda are ordinances for first reading. These are bills, and they will not be voted on at this time. This is a first reading. We begin with Bill number 3, 2024. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, establishing appropriations of $300,000 of American Rescue Plan Act proceeds received in 2022, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
I'll hear a motion.
First reading.
Oh, sorry. I even said it to myself twice, that it's the first reading. It is the first reading. There's no motion. Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. First, we have Bill number 3, 2024, allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds for critical housing repairs. This bill will allocate $300,000 to the city critical housing repairs that came from the return of the $2 million from SDL-Delco from the original ARPA grant. So, Director Dawes, if you have anything to add.
Good evening, Director Dulles.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the time we spent last week at Council Committee. I know we had a good discussion about some of the details related to the critical repair program. Just as a quick reminder, the proposal on the table tonight is the recommendation from city staff to dedicate $300,000 in ARPA funding toward critical repair grants for owner-occupied homes, where the owners in the city are defined as low to moderate income households. As Councilor Ahmed mentioned, I think it's important to note this isn't new ARPA money that's being allocated for this program. This is related to the $2 million that won't be able to be used for the Stockyard Inn project. So in essence, the $300,000 of that $2 million would be directed for the $300,000 in critical repair funding for this program. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer those. Last reminder, our intent is to obligate and contract this funding before December 2024 so that we can get those dollars into the hands of households and execute the projects as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Director Dulles. Our only question was this $300,000, is this going to be used as fully grants for the critical repairs, or is this also going to be used in the low-interest loan program?
Thank you. That's a great question. This $300,000 is specifically for grants with a focus on 50% area median income or lower. We also came to the council last month related to a critical repair revolving loan program. Those programs are supposed to work as complements, but the $300,000 tonight is focused on the grants for lower income households.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council?
Councilor Ahmed.
Council President.
Thank you, Director Dulles. I really appreciate you coming to our committee meeting to talk through this. I think there's two important things I wanted to highlight and just get your confirmation on.
Sure.
That are in my notes from that meeting. So to qualify for this program, just like our loan programs, you need to be a city resident and you need to own the home that you're living in. You mentioned targeting 50% area median income or less for the grant dollars. And also, you just mentioned at their committee the meeting that this program has been extremely popular. Can you speak a little bit to the waiting list that we have and the average cost of the grants or the repairs for each project?
Yes, absolutely. You were right on all counts. The pieces of information that you shared before. The program is for city residents, owner-occupied homes, and we have executed this program in the past primarily with community development block grant dollars. So essentially, we will be utilizing an additional funding source in ARPA to expand the program. In the past, we have often had a waiting list for the CDBG program. We do have a waiting list right now of 15 properties that have already been essentially approved and are ready to go. The program allows the critical repair cost to be as low as $1,000 and as much as $25,000 per household. It averages out to about $10,000 per household.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions for council? Councilor Diaz?
In regards to the grants, is there any type of stipulation of what type the repairs are? Is there a list?
There is. I can give you a little bit more information here about our typical repairs. Eligible repairs tend to focus on life and safety issues for the residents within that household. That usually includes roofs, heating, electrical, sewer and plumbing, and other structural issues that might cause a reason for someone to move out or condemnation of the home, for example. Really, the intent of this program is a recognition that it is becoming more and more costly for residents to cover the costs of maintenance on their home, and this is intended to be a subsidy for low to moderate income households to help with those costs over time.
So just to be clear, and for everyone to be clear, this is not a loan. Is that correct?
The funding that is that is part of this legislative action today is grant only. That is correct. It is not a loan.
I just want to, because some people do get things confused that they're getting repair, but it's going to be at a 5% or 3%, whatever the amount is, versus getting a grant that is specifically to help them, that's grant tax dollars that are helping the residents that need help.
Yes, and to be absolutely clear, we do have a program option for a loan as well. That is intended for slightly higher income households, but for the lowest income households, this program is a grant.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Council, please.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. Director Delph, can you tell us how city residents, homeowners who don't have computers or don't have access to the internet can apply for the program?
Absolutely. We have actually, I think, done an excellent job in building the capacity of what we've referred to as our Office of Lead Safety over the last couple of years. We've actually rebranded that office, the Office of Healthy Homes, because they're doing a lot of different repair work now in addition to just the lead remediation. There are a number of different ways to contact them. There are actually a couple of employees that are focused specifically on engagement for these programs. And if anyone does not have a computer, please come to the front desk at City Hall and ask about this program, and they'll be connected directly to a member of our Office of Healthy Homes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Ahmed.
If I may, Councilor Ahmed, I have another question.
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Diaz.
Would that be also for citizens of the United States or residents that are immigrants that would be able to get the grants? I just want to see if there is a difference between someone that owns a home but only is a resident of the United States?
It's a resident of the City of Lancaster,
Okay.
a homeowner.
Are there any other council questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the public?
Can you tell me the difference between the critical repair program and this program, please?
Thank you for the question. This is the critical repair program. We've been working over the last many months to develop different program options that fit households with different needs. So we have a critical repair program, for example, like the one we're speaking about tonight. We also have a lead hazard control program, which addresses different needs within the home.
So are they two programs or the same program?
Two programs.
Okay, so you have the critical repair program plus this one now.
We actually have more than that too, but you're talking about those two. So those are two separate programs.
And just to be clear, the $300,000 is coming from the $2 million from the ARPA funds that was released.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Which was for housing, affordable housing.
Correct.
But this is a whole critical repair program.
For low to moderate income housing, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez.
Are there any other questions or comments? If you would like to make your way to the podium.
Councilor Ahmed, well, can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
It's just as part of my.
Hi, so my question is,
Mr. Golds, hang on just 1 second.
Oh, sure.
I think Councilor Arroyo had a clarifying comment, and then I will allow you your time.
Just a point of clarification that the ARPA dollars, while intended for affordable housing, were intended towards new units or the preservation of units, and that's why $300,000 is being recommended for approval for the critical repair program.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Golds, go ahead. If you could, I want to make sure that I'm enforcing this for everyone. Please begin with your name and block of residence for the meeting minutes. Go right ahead.
my name is Sean Golatz, 200 block of Howard Avenue. My question is, what percentage of city residents have been identified as homeowners and also qualify in the income level required for the grants? And secondly, what percentage of them do not have computers or access to the internet?
Director Delph, I know that you may not have all of that information in front of you, but you may endeavor to answer.
I can say ballpark figures. We do know that about 65 or 66% of the households within the city of Lancaster are rental households, and the remainder are owner-occupied households. I don't have numbers about how many of that households have access to computer or not. I would think that's probably the minority at this point, but I appreciate the question from Councilor Calixte. If anyone needs to connect with us directly, that is absolutely possible.
And Director Dawson, sort of in line with that line of questioning, can you define what the 50% of the area median income would be?
Yes, all of our federal programs actually use the metro statistical area, not just the city of Lancaster. We have to go by that county figure as opposed to the city of Lancaster figure. 50% AMI for a household of 4 is $47,750.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Director Dellis. Do we have any final comments or questions? This is a first reading. Hearing none, we will move on to Administrative Bill Number 4, 2024. Mr. Harris? Or I can...
Mr. Harris. He's just going to keep on going. The next one says due.
I'm sorry, the title of Bill Number 4, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, awarding contracts for the creation and production and/or rehabilitation of affordable housing units pursuant to a previous appropriation of $5 million of American Rescue Plan Act proceeds in October 2021 by Ordinance 18, 2021, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. This bill, again, is a first reading, and this is allocating the remaining $1.7 million for affordable housing projects from the original ARPA grant money. And I'll just read through some of the awardees. HGC Mid-Atlantic College Ave in the amount of $500,000. HGC Mid-Atlantic College Ave Part 2 in the amount of $300,000. Partners with Purpose, $400,000. And Thaddeus Stevens College, $500,000. I will just make a point of clarity that Partners with Purpose, although did receive funds in the original ARPA allocation, these are for new or additional units. And Director Dellis, if you have any further to add.
I don't have anything further to add at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the specific projects. I think you covered the highlights. Thank you for the recap. Again, happy to entertain anything that might be remaining.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions or comments from council? From the public? Hearing none, we will have this on our next item, on our next agenda at our next meeting with council. Again, this is a first reading this evening. And that concludes the Economic Development Committee, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. The next part of our agenda is resolutions, of which we have several this evening. We'll begin with Administration Resolution number 11. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving an amended capital project list to be funded by the proceeds of the City of Lancaster General Obligation Bonds, Series of 2014.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution is one of 4 capital improvement plan amendments that we have this evening. As capital improvement projects are completed or need adjustment once the actual work on the project begins, we need to make shifts within the line item allocations in each bond fund to accommodate these adjustments. Most of the adjustments require approval of the amendment from council, and those adjustments are included in the next 4 resolutions. The resolutions are broken out by bond fund. Each resolution includes new general line items that will allow for work to be completed without requiring more resolutions from council. The new line items will give some flexibility for the projects that might arise within specific parameters without listing a specific individual project each time. This specific resolution pertains to the 2014 capital bond, which funded sewer system improvements. Work for that project was completed on the oxygen control system, and the remaining $138,000 in that account will be moved to the collection system improvements project for sewer replacement needs. This specific move will close out the 2014 bond fund. And Director Campbell, if there's anything that you would like to add to that, that is all I have.
Thank you very much, Councilor Arroyo. Excuse me. Council comments on the resolution from the public.
Yeah, I have a question.
Ms. Gomez?
Susie Gomez.
Thank you.
Do I have to say my address?
Just to the block.
115 North Reservoir Street. Council Arroyo, can you tell me when the sewer was replaced?
For this specific project?
Yeah.
Director Campbell, if I can invite you to the podium, you might be able to provide a little bit more detail on the timeline of the project.
Thank you very, very much for that question. The oxygen control biological nutrient removal process was done a few years ago, and the money that is being applied is to the sewer lining replacement projects, which have yet to be undertaken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I'm getting it right, $138,000 is going to be transferred over to a new grant?
Not a new grant, a different line item for a different project.
A different line item within the water sewer?
Correct.
Okay. And we, are we still getting fined from the EPA daily, monthly?
I don't think it has anything to do with this resolution.
Well, it has to do with our water system, sewer, water, drains, oxygen.
Ms. Gomez,
It's a combined.
we're not being fined on a daily or monthly basis by the Environmental Protection Authority. We do have issues when we receive significant amounts of rainfall, and part of the overall system improvements are to address our combined sewer system, which you have noted.
And they are being addressed. The combined sewer system issues are being addressed? Is that what you said?
And it will take many years to get us to the place that the EPA wants us to be.
Well, maybe you need to talk to Ephrata, because I don't think it took them 80 years for 180 manholes. They are in our backyard.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Is there any further comments from the public on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Madden.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Please.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. Next item, and it's related, is resolution number 12, 2024.
A resolution of the council of the city of Lancaster approving an amended capital project list to be funded by the proceeds of the city of Lancaster general obligation bonds, series of 2016A.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the movement of $1,274,395 remaining from the 2019 construction of the Public Works Operations Center to new general facilities improvements line item. Those funds will be used to address issues found in the recently completed facilities assessment. This move will close out the 2016A bond fund.
Thank you very much, Councilor Arroyo. Any comments from council? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Madden.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Please.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. Next item, resolution number 13, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the council of the city of Lancaster approving an amended capital project list to be funded by the proceeds of the city of Lancaster general obligation bonds, series of 2018.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes several transfers of funds. These funds can be found and are listed in Exhibit A that accompany this resolution. These are being moved to fund design of future projects.
Thank you very much. Are there any council comments on the resolution?
If I may.
Councilor Diaz.
I didn't hear that clearly. Can you repeat that a little louder, please?
This resolution authorizes several transfer funds. These funds are also listed in the Exhibit A that accompanies the resolution in your packet, Councilor Diaz. These are being moved to fund design of future projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mann. Aye. Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye. And we now move to Administration Resolution Number 14, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving an amended capital project list to be funded by the proceeds of the City of Lancaster General Obligation Bonds Series of 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the shifting of funds from completed projects to pay for facility improvements at the Conestoga and Susquehanna water plants to two new projects, work at the Lafayette tank, and then a few miscellaneous water capital improvement projects.
Thank you. Any council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mann.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye. Our next item is Administration Resolution Number 15, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is coming through community planning. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Let me start by reading this. The information that I'm giving right now is going to apply to Resolution 1516, and I don't see 25 on the agenda.
It's coming later. Yep.
Yeah, it's not on my agenda, but it is online.
Yes.
Okay, and 25. So, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection requires the municipality to adopt an official sewage facilities plan, providing for the services adequate to prevent contamination and environmental health hazards with sewage waste, and to amend when necessary to assure there is adequate sewage disposal. Resolution 15, 2 seconds. There you go. When we went over this at committee meeting last week, this is a project being done by Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. They're building They build two duplexes every year using the construction as a hands-on learning process for their students. The college purchased the properties on Hillside Avenue to construct another set of duplexes, and the land is currently vacant, and the college is seeking a sewer hookup for the property, which has gone through community planning, I'm not community planning, planning in general, land planning, if I'm not mistaken, right, Douglas? And that's all I have on that.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. Are there any comments from council on the resolution? From the public?
I have a question.
Ms. Gomez.
115 North Reservoir Street. Councilor Craig, you had mentioned Resolution 15, 16, 17, or just 15, 16, and 25?
15, 16, and 25.
We're not, just to be clear, we're not taking them all
No,
together,
we're not
but
putting them all together.
they deal with the sewer control plan.
So Thaddeus Stevens, this one here on resolution number 16, 132 and 143 South Prince Street, is that also,
That's not a part of Thaddeus Stevens.
so who purchased that one?
Well, we are in the midst of dealing with Thaddeus Stevens and their property on Hillside Avenue at Current.
Okay, so this is for,
If that comes up, then we'll get back to that, but we're gonna deal with this here, right?
oh, you're just on 15, resolution 15. Thank you.
Additional comments from the public on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Moon.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Please.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
And President Bacon.
Aye. We move now to Administration Resolution Number 16, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Resolution 16. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. The same sewer municipality regulations apply that we read earlier. Lancaster City Housing and Redevelopment Authorities is developing the project partially with funding from the city's American Rescue Plan Act allocations for an emergency shelter, a day shelter, and transitional housing at 132 and 134 South Prince Street. They hope that the facility would be up and operational by fall of 2025. And I don't have anything to add to that.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. And a point of clarification, the owner then is the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authority of the property.
Correct.
That's right. Thank you. Any additional council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Moon.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Please.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. We'll now move to Administration Resolution Number 17, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the submission of an application seeking funding from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Municipal Assistance Program for the City East Side Neighborhood Small Area Plan.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Our Chief Planner Douglas Smith presented this on at our committee meeting last week. The city would apply for a grant from the State Department of Community Development's Municipal Assistance Program. And that program provides grants for the technical assistance of land planning efforts. The grant would fund a small area plan for the East Side neighborhood, which includes the site of the city of the county prison. It was said that the plan would look holistically at neighborhood and not just the prison site. It would look at land use, zoning, transportation, development, housing, public spaces, urban design, open spaces, art, culture, and infrastructure. There will also be a robust community engagement effort as part of the planning process.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. I would just add from my notes at the committee meeting that this project is, this is extremely early. This is a small area plan that is just an idea to engage the public on what could be in this area. And it is still county property at this point. This is the prison site. I would invite our Chief Planner, Douglas Smith, if there's anything that he'd like to add at this time, or we can take council comments to start. He is available. Any council comments on the resolution?
Just one comment or question.
Councilor
I know this is very early, but when can we start to see some of the plans or some of the engagement around the site.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. I know we did talk about that timeline, so if you could provide us that, Mr. Smith.
Sure. Good evening, councilors. Good evening, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Ahmed, for your question. So we are on the verge of issuing a request for proposals, which will begin a selection process for consultants. This resolution for you this evening is actually for a grant submission to help fund this effort, but we are eager to get started, and we have partial funding from another state program from DCED. So we are embarking on that RFP process in the very near future. If all goes according to plan and what we've submitted in this grant to, or what we will submit to the state through this grant, we will be hiring the consultant in the next couple of months, and our hope is that sometime during the summer we'll have some early messaging for the community around this effort, and by the fall we would be doing some engagement work. One of our grants has to be spent down in September of 2025. So the goal is to actually have a plan in draft form before council for consideration for adoption by fall of next year. So it'll be about a 1.5-year process, about 18 months from beginning to end.
Thank you, and if you could keep council updated throughout the progress, I would certainly appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. Additional council comments on the resolution? Comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye. Our next item is resolution number 18, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving a flag raising on February 3rd, 2025 to acknowledge Black History Month brought forth by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This came up through the Committee of the Whole. As councilors, as you are hopefully aware, in 2022, we passed an ordinance requiring that organizations wishing to raise the flag at City Hall submit an application. And the NAACP Lancaster branch has done so in a timely manner for the last several years. They're getting way out ahead of this one. This is for Black History Month 2025, so a little under now, a full year from now. And yeah, that's about that. Is there any additional council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye. And next item, excuse me, resolution number 19, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the Juneteenth flag raising on June 20th, 2025 to acknowledge the emancipation of African Americans brought forth by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you, councilors. Similarly, the NAACP Lancaster branch has submitted an application for their Juneteenth flag raising. It is for Juneteenth 2025. So they're on the ball. They're getting on ahead of it. Any additional council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Madden.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye. All right, next item on our agenda, Council Resolution number 21, 2024.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster appointing Samantha Volrath, 304 East New Street, as a member of the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board for a term beginning immediately and concluding December 31st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
This came up with the Personnel Committee. Councilor Caliste.
Thank you, Madam President. So this resolution was reviewed at our last committee meeting on March 4th. There isn't much to say about this resolution, and the resolution appoints Samantha Volrath as a member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board, and she is currently serving on the board as an alternate member, and she has expressed interest in becoming a full voting member, so she can continue to serve on the board using her experience in affordable housing development.
Thank you, Councilor Cleese. Council comments on the resolution? Comments from the public on the resolution?
Yes, I have comments.
Ms. Gomez?
Councilor Khalid, Samantha Voloff, is she a resident in the city of Lancaster?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long has she been a resident?
I don't have that information.
Can you please get me that information?
I can provide that information later to you.
Councilor Phillips, if I could interrupt, I've known Samantha since she was a little girl, so I'm going to venture to say, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to venture to say that she's been here most of her life.
I believe you. Thank you.
Thank you for that insight.
Thank you, Councilor Gray.
Additional additional public comment on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris?
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
She stepped out for a moment.
Mr. Hershey?
Aye.
President Bega?
Aye. The next item is council resolution number 22 of 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster appointing Deborah Stewart, 601 State Street, as an alternate member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board for a term beginning immediately and concluding December 31st, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Cleese.
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution appoints Deborah Stewart as an alternate member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board. And Ms. Stewart attended the committee meeting last March 4th. And she had served on the board as a full voting member in the 90s. She has expressed interest in becoming an alternate member, and she's a resident in the city. She is an experienced architect, and she is active in architecturally related community activities. And she has worked on different projects with different entities.
Thank you very much, Councilor Cleese. Additional comments from council on the resolution? From the public on the resolution?
I just have a comment.
Ms. Gomez.
I just have a comment for Councilor Khalid. I don't think that it's the experience that the people of the city of Lancaster, that taxpayers are concerned about zoning. It's the problem that the meetings do not comply with certain people's schedule. Taxpayers in this city are not, they have a lot of questions when it comes to zoning. And it is, all of the questions that we have yet to be answered. You had a meeting today at 4 p.m. I'm sure you're aware of it. A lot of people were picking up their children. Then they got to prepare for other meetings in one day. I think that the zoning board should be respectful of the taxpayers' time, especially when they're expressing their concerns in regards to zoning.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Any additional public comments on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hershey?
Aye.
President Bega?
Aye. Moving on to council resolution number 2023 of 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster appointing Abigail Christine Lapp, 232 East Madison Street, as an alternate member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board for a term beginning immediately and concluding December 31st, 2026.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Cleese.
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution appoints Abigail Christian Law as an alternate member to the City of Lancaster Zoning Hearing Board. And Ms. Law is a resident of the city. She lives in the northeast area, and she works as a registered nurse. And she has expressed her interest in becoming an alternate member of the board. She wants to serve as a volunteer on the board. She was here on March 4th attending our committee meeting, and she told us about her goals, what she wants to achieve while being on the board.
Thank you very much, Councilor Cleves. Council comments on the resolution. Comments from the public on the resolution. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mann.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Baker.
Aye. We will move on to our next item, which is Council Resolution Number 24 of 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster supporting the Building Safer Streets Act and encouraging actions to reduce roadway fatalities and injuries, increase local control of roadway design, and remove federal obstacles to roadway safety.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This was introduced by Councilor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution is to announce or, resolve our support for the Building Safer Streets Act. It's originated by our own U.S. Senator John Fetterman. This bill purposefully distinguishes between rural, suburban, and urban communities and the needs of those communities when it comes to designing safer streets. And it allows smaller communities, which is defined by the Federal Highway Administration as communities that are 250,000 residents or less. Population in Lancaster hovers around 59,000, so that's us in the city of Lancaster. More opportunities to make street safety improvements. I've heard a lot of residents in the city of Lancaster kind of talk about, I'd like to see these changes on our streets. I'd like to, make these smaller but meaningful changes to streets. And one of the things that this bill does is it allows for the Safe Streets for All grant, of which Lancaster was previously a recipient, lowers the threshold to apply for a project from $5 million to $1 million, which is crucial because given the scale of the public works improvements to our public right-of-way, it's often hard to hit that $5 million threshold without combining multiple projects. So this bill basically allows for Lancaster to have greater access, the city of Lancaster to have greater access to grant funding that would be available through this. Makes a few other changes. Again, it's about kind of providing more local control over what safety improvements we want to make to our streets, and kind of distinguishing what control devices, traffic control devices are appropriate, or I shouldn't say traffic control devices, but just street safety improvements in general are appropriate for various types of communities.
Thank you very much, Councilor Hirsch. And I just want to make a point of clarification. This is a resolution in support of a federal bill.
That's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Yes.
We would love to make that decision ourselves, but we need the federal government's help for that. So this is in support of that. Any additional council comments on the resolution
Yes, please.
from the public?
More of a question than anything regarding the Building Safer Streets Act. Is there any contradiction between that and the Church Street plans for improvement with respect to parallel versus angled parking? Because according to the Associated State Highway and Transportation officials and other state studies, it's clearly stated and documented through many studies that angled parking creates a situation of higher accidents in the community. So I'm wondering if there's some correlation. I get the sense sometimes many actions are done independent of others without any coordination among them. So I really hope that there is some coordination between the various objectives of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. I can address that briefly. So the Building Safer Streets Act doesn't actually make any changes to recommendations about parking or any specific projects. It is truly just a way to get more funding to smaller cities like Lancaster for small street improvement projects, but it doesn't address any specific recommendations.
Just so long as we don't contradict, that's my concern, is the contradictions.
Are there any additional comments from the public on the resolution?
Yeah, I have.
Ms. Gomez?
Hi. Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned Lancaster City is a small city. It's not a metropolitan area. We shouldn't be treating it as a metropolitan area. Councilman Hirsch, when was the last time you actually spoke with anyone from residents in regards to safer streets?
This morning.
Okay. And how many times do you do that? Weekly, once a month?
Pretty frequently. It's something I really care about personally.
Okay. And you know that we do have funding for those specific reasons. So, I mean, if you're opening the door to more funding, that's great. But please utilize it for the specific reasoning of the public citizens and not just to get more funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Excuse me. Further comments from the public? Good evening.
Good evening, Adriana Atencio, 100 block of East Ross Street. This is extremely exciting. The more projects that we're able to get off the ground, the better off we are. I hope it also gives us the opportunity to convince PennDOT to let us do a lot more for our city. For example, I petitioned the Traffic Commission a few years ago to examine our city and see if we can't lower our speed limit to 20 miles per hour in the entire city. We know that if we lower our speed limit, if cars go slower, it reduces fatal crashes. But PennDOT told us that we would have to do an engineering study of every single street, and that is extremely expensive and just absolutely ludicrous. We would never be able to do that. So I'm hoping that this type of thing gives us a little bit more control and that we are able to take our streets kind of back into our own hands. Thank you for your support in this, and I hope that we're able to continue to make our streets safer and continue to have great projects on the horizon.
Thank you. Are there any further comments from the public on the resolution? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mitt?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch? President Bacon?
Aye. We now move to Administration Resolution Number 25 of 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig, going back to you.
Thank you, Council President. Just in case we forgot, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection requires the municipality to adopt an official sewage plan facilities plan, providing for the services adequate to prevent contamination and environmental health hazards with sewage waste, and to amend when necessary to assure there is adequate sewage disposal. This project would redevelop two adjacent properties on Rockland Street, which had been gutted by fire. Chestnut Housing was awarded the properties by the City Redevelopment Authority. Before the fire, 609 Rockland Street was a 6-unit rooming house. It is proposed to be redeveloped into 6 apartments next door at 607 Rockland Street, and into 6 apartments. Next door at 607 Rockland Street was a single-family home that's being redeveloped as a 2-unit building. All of these apartments will be affordable.
Thank you very much, Councilor Craig. Are there any council comments on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Roy.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch.
Aye.
President Bacon.
Aye. We now move to resolution number 26, 2024. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City of Lancaster authorizing the proper officers of the City of Lancaster to expend $800,000 of the city's fiscal recovery funds received from the United States Department of Treasury to fund in conjunction with the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authority on behalf of the County of Lancaster, the construction and implementation of additional low-barrier shelter capacity within the City of Lancaster, and $800,000 of the city's fiscal recovery funds received from the United States Department of the Treasury to fund the development of a permanent center for homelessness services, shelter for housing for persons experiencing homelessness within the City of Lancaster, and providing for the repeal of Administrative Resolution Number 30, 2023.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilors, this is coming through, the Economic Development Committee. Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution is amending the agreement with the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authority for provisions of homelessness services. Council may remember the $1.6 million that was allocated for ARPA, from ARPA funds for continuum of homelessness services. This is just amending the original agreement, and if Director Delphs or Douglas have anything that they would like to add. We did get presentations at length from the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and this is just finalizing that amended agreement.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. I would just make one comment before Director Delphs, and to say that Council did get that lengthy presentation from the County Redevelopment Authority, and I would say that although it's not an ideal situation to be coming back and amending this, and despite the challenges that they're facing, I do believe that it's still Council's desire, and certainly my own, to continue to allocate these funds specifically toward homelessness services. Director Delphs, thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much for that introduction. As Councilor Ahmed noted, City Council approved this agreement originally in April of last year. That was connected to an allocation of $1.6 million. $800,000, or half of that $1.6 million, was intended for 80 low-barrier shelter beds over the course of 3 winters through April 2026. The other $800,000 was intended for the construction of the South Prince Street hub for homeless services. As we heard from the County Redevelopment and Housing Authority and the Office of the Homelessness Coalition, they have run into a number of challenges with those projects, and were not able to meet the performance requirements in the original agreement, and were not able to satisfy certain deadlines in that agreement. The action that is before you is essentially to make adjustments to that original agreement. The intent is still for the Homelessness Coalition and the County Redevelopment and Housing Authority to provide those 80 low-barrier shelter beds and still construct the hub, but just under slightly different terms.
Thank you very much, Director Delphs.
Thank you, Director Dawson. Are there any questions or comments from council? From the public? Thank you, Director Dawson.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to resolution number 27, 2024. Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, I'm just going to have you check your mic and then start again.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving an easement agreement between the City of Lancaster and 253 East Chestnut LLC, granting an easement to Chestnut LLC for use of a portion of the city's right-of-way over, under, and through East Chestnut Street as fully set forth in the easement agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Counselor Craig. Or I'm so
This
sorry,
would be me.
this is Public Works. Counselor Hirsch.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, so this is for an easement agreement with the applicant 253 East Chestnut LLC, seeking to construct an easement or an ADA accessible ramp into their restaurant at the corner at 253 East Chestnut Street. And it would start at the door at 251, the neighboring property. The applicant owns both of these buildings. And essentially, they're looking to build a patio that kind of, an ADA ramp that can also double as space for outdoor dining. The ramp will come out from the building, 5 feet, I believe, and then that would leave 6 feet of sidewalk width. The applicant has also stated that they're planning to add more ADA accessible facilities, including ADA accessible restrooms on the premises. And I just want to commend the applicant for making our city a more accessible place.
Thank you very much, Counselor Hirsch. Any additional comments from council on the resolution? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med,
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo,
Aye.
Mr. Glees,
Aye.
Ms. Craig,
Aye.
Ms. Diaz,
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch,
Aye.
and President Bega.
Aye. That concludes our legislative agenda this evening. The next item on our agenda is our second public comment period. It's open for comments on issues that were not previously on the agenda. Again, the duration of comments is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Please begin with your name and block of residence for our meeting record. If there's anyone wishing to make public comment, please come to the podium at this time. Mr. Morrissey. Could you just make sure the microphone's on? That's all right. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, I want my comments to be interpreted as constructive input. I haven't been to many council meetings recently. I used to attend frequently, and I've taken somewhat of a hiatus, but since I've been returning, I'm picking up something that's disturbing, in that the credibility of the city council, and by extension, city government, seems to be suffering, let me put it that way. And I'm comparing 2 points in time. Now, one may suggest it's perception, but perception is reality in the eyes of the beholder. I'm hearing various comments, my own, for example, we're not getting feedback, we're not getting answers. There just seems to be a black hole in the city government these days that's become quite disturbing to the residents. And I get feedback from my neighbors, things is like the city council is rubber stamping city department's wishes. But there are many things that can affect your credibility, some beyond your ability to control, and many are. Perception can be managed. But when I read things, too, in the paper that one of the arguments or one of the supports for the Church Street project is input from a planning commission member's mother. I ask myself, what's driving these changes? So you need to be aware of these things, but I think they can be managed. I want this council and the city government to be viewed as I used to see it, and my neighbors used to see it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where you had credibility, you had respect, you were seen as to be supporting the residents, the commuter, and the resident voters. Please accept that I perceive there's been a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrissey. Are there any additional public comments for the second public comment period this evening? Ms. Gomez.
Yeah, so just to piggyback Councilman Hirsch on the safety of our streets. You know, the white poles that were put on the streets caused major accidents. I'll send you the report. Also, they put them on, they took them off. Some blocks were taken out, some blocks were removed. And yes, it caused very concerns to the citizens of Lancaster. We're not here to debate. I'm here to speak for the citizens of Lancaster who don't have the time because they work hard to pay taxes. And you guys, as public servants, because we pay your salary, you're supposed to be listening to the public because we have major concerns in our city. Not only safer streets, but rental. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard enough of it because it's the talk of the town. Just address the issues respectfully to the citizens of Lancaster who pay your salary and expect more for their children who live here, who want to have hope here, to buy a home, to live the American dream, to not live with their mom and dad because they can't afford a one-bedroom apartment. Okay? We as citizens of Lancaster deserve more. We really do. Okay? It's not about a tit for tat. It's about listening to the citizens' concerns and addressing them appropriately, not delaying them, not ignoring them, nor denying them. We deserve respect, and our children deserve a future in our city, county. This is not a metropolitan area.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Are there any additional public comments this evening? Hearing none, I will close the public comment period for this evening. Our next item on the agenda is the report of the mayor. Mayor Sarachi.
Thank you very much, Council President. Two items today. The first is a quick update on the lead service line inventory project that is underway. As you may know, a revision in the U.S. EPA's lead and copper rule requires the city to inventory the material of all water lines in our water system, both the public, utility-owned portion, and the customer-owned portion of the line. Water lines may be copper, plastic, galvanized metal, or lead. This month, an informational one-pager will go out to all water customers with their water bills. This includes the city as well as the surrounding municipalities that we serve. This will be the third letter all customers will have received about the project. We're also doing outreach online and through community partners and neighborhood leaders. This spring, neighborhood canvassing will begin to help spread the word about this critical project. We're asking customers not to delay and verify the material of their pipe in their basement. Over 7,800 customers have already done so, and this is a huge, huge accomplishment and something that we can be quite proud of. And I think Mr. Campbell learned a week or so ago that we are blowing out of the water our sister cities in this regard by magnitude of thousands. I think that really speaks to the level of engagement that we have in our community and the partnerships that we've had to conduct this. Customers can go to cityoflancasterpa.gov/verify to see helpful documents and how-to guides to submit their information. And I just want to underscore, the more that we have public participation in identifying the water lines, the less costly this will be because we are required by the EPA to develop an inventory. The second item that I just wanted to let you know about concerns. Overall, we've been talking a lot about traffic and safety. In an effort to enhance overall safety and traffic operations, the City of Lancaster is implementing modifications to 90 traffic signals throughout Lancaster City during the month of March. The planned changes include the addition of leading pedestrian intervals, known as LPIs, as well as adjusting traffic signal timing. LPIs, which provide pedestrians with a 3-second head start when crossing the street before turning vehicles get the green light, will be introduced at 60 intersections, including North Prince and West Walnut, South Queen, Church and Conestoga Streets, and Ann and King Streets. LPIs are a proven safety measure that can reduce the incidence of pedestrian vehicle crashes at intersections by up to 60%, according to the National Association of City Transportation Officials. They are particularly valuable for protecting slower-moving pedestrians, including older adults and school-age children. Traffic signals further will be synchronized for a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit down from the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. So to Adriana's point, we can't do a survey and an evaluation of every street, but we can time our signals to slow down traffic. This change is obviously intended to slow traffic where cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles all share the street. Additionally, traffic signals will be coordinated in smaller groups and timing will be adjusted based on time of day, so drivers may not be able to travel from one end of the city to the other without stopping. These initiatives align with the city's Vision Zero efforts to eliminate traffic-related deaths and serious injuries by 2030. We understand that slowing down while driving is the most impactful action motorists can take to prevent fatalities and serious injuries. That concludes my report, President.
Thank you, Mayor Sirachi. The next item on our agenda is the report of President of Council. I do have a brief one this evening. I just want to flag for folks here and who are listening that coming up on the 14th, so Thursday, there are 2 Parks Plan public workshops that are going to be held. This is a way that residents can provide feedback and about improving parks and recreation in the city of Lancaster. They're going to be held at 2 locations. The first is at 3 o'clock at the Lancaster Science Factory, and the second is at 5:30 at the Lancaster Rec on Fairview Avenue. Again, this is all on Thursday, March 14th, so if you can't go to the early one, perhaps you can go to the later or vice versa. And these are truly workshops where you can drop in, share your thoughts, view some proposals, vote on them, discuss what you'd like to see in our parks. So I do invite you to please come out to those. And that concludes my report. We'll now move to any council comments. Are there any comments from members of council? All right. Hearing none and having concluded our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.